Sawadee Kop. Welcome to Break Time with Monte. Today's story, Indonesia seizes Thai ship. Huge Thai-owned refrigerated cargo ship, believed to be loaded with slave-caught fish, seized by Indonesia's Navy after satellite spotting by U.S. news agency. Jakarta. A huge Thai-owned refrigerated cargo ship, believed to be loaded with slave-caught fish, was seized by Indonesia's Navy and brought to shore after a U.S. news agency told authorities it had entered the country's waters, officials said Thursday. The Silver Sea 2 was located late Wednesday and escorted about 80 miles 130 kilometers to a naval base in Sabang on the Indonesian archipelago's northwestern tip, said Colonel Sujamatmiko, the local naval chief. Silver Sea Reefer Company of Samut Sakhorn owns the ship and at least 8 other refrigerated cargo vessels, and each has said it is not involved with the fishermen. Nearly impossible to catch. The Associated Press used a satellite beacon signal to trace the Silver Sea 2's path from Papua New Guinea waters, where it was also being sought, into neighboring Indonesia. The Navy then spent a week trying to catch it. The ship was close to leaving Indonesian waters by the time it was finally seized. "I'm so overwhelmed with happiness," said Fisheries Minister Susi Pujastuti. "It was almost impossible, but we did it." The Silver Sea 2 is the same 2,285-ton vessel captured in a high-resolution satellite photo last month in Papua New Guinea, showing its hold open and 2 fishing trawlers tethered to each side, loading fish. The smaller wooden vessels were identified by analysts as ones that fled a remote Indonesian island earlier this year, crewed by enslaved men from poor Southeast Asian countries who are routinely beaten and forced to work nearly non-stop with little or no pay. An AP investigation revealed their catch reached the supply chains of major U.S. food sellers, including Walmart, Cisco, Kroger, and American pet food companies like Fancy Feast, Meow Mix, and IAMS. The businesses have all said they strongly condemn labor abuse and vowed to take steps to prevent it. Moratorium on all foreign fishing. Mr. Pujastuti freed hundreds of men earlier this year after the AP exposed they were trapped, including some locked in a cage, on the island village of Benjina, but 34 boats loaded with slaves escaped before authorities arrived. They remain missing. Mr. Pujastuti, who put a moratorium on all foreign fishing last year, said the Silver Sea 2 captain will be questioned, and an investigation will be launched into suspected human trafficking, transport of illegally caught fish, and offloading at sea, which allows fishermen to work for months on end without returning to port, making it easier for their captains to exploit them. Indonesia's action here is significant as it demonstrates a commitment to enforcing the actions of vessels within their waters, regardless of where they are. Fishing illegally or trafficking labor, says Tobias Aguirre, executive director of California-based nonprofit Fishwise, which advocates for sustainable slave-free seafood. Thai-owned fish cargo ship seized by Papua New Guinea. Authorities in Papua New Guinea had also been searching for the boat. They instead seized another Thai-owned fish cargo ship, the Blissful Reefer, 2 weeks ago. 2 trafficked Myanmar men and 6 Cambodians were found on board. Workers who recently returned home to Myanmar after being enslaved on one of the trawlers that fled to Papua New Guinea said they regularly loaded fish onto the Silver Sea cargo ships. They ferried the catches back to Thailand where it was processed and fed into the country's $7 billion annual seafood export business. The industry depends on the labor of poor people from its own country and migrants from Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos, who are often sold, shanghaied, kidnapped, and tricked onto trawlers. In addition, Myanmar slaves rescued from Benjina, who were among hundreds interviewed by the AP in person or in writing, said they were trafficked in Thailand and brought to fish in Indonesia aboard Silver Sea 2, with no way to return home. And now, today's vocabulary. Abuse, abuse, advocate, advocate, analyst, analyst, annual, annual, archipelago, archipelago, authority, authority, base, base, beacon, beacon, beaten up, beaten up, cage, cage, capture, capture, cargo, cargo, catch, catch, commitment, commitment, condemn, condemn, crew, crew, demonstrate, demonstrate, depend on, depend on, enforce, enforce, escape, escape, escort, escort, exploit, exploit, exposed, exposed, fled, fled, high resolution, high resolution, hold, hold, huge, huge, identified, identified, illegally, illegally, impossible, impossible, interview, interview, investigation, 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 involve, involve, kidnap, kidnap, labor, labor, launch, launch, loaded, loaded, local, local, locate, locate, lock, lock, migrant, migrant, missing, missing, moratorium, moratorium, naval, naval, neighboring, neighboring, news agency, news agency, nonprofit, nonprofit, officials, officials, offload, offload, on board, overwhelmed, overwhelmed, path, path, port, port, prevent, prevent, processed, processed, question, question, recently, recently, refrigerated, refrigerated, regularly, regularly, remote, remote, reveal, reveal, routinely, routinely, satellite, satellite, seize, seize,